right, everybody, welcome back to the Strangers Worth Meeting podcast. I almost said the wrong podcast name. I've just been in two different modes. And today I'm excited because I'm up in Cloudcroft, New Mexico. Really awesome town. My first time here ever this evening. And we've got Prather here. And Ford is a woodworker. He owns Little Water Woodworks here in Cloudcroft. And I got kind of excited because I saw some of the things you were making on Instagram, and I was like, I've never talked to a woodworker before about their work. This is going to be really exciting. So welcome on the show. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. And this is going to be my first interview on a podcast, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're going to do great. Here you listen to some woodwork podcasts, so we should be just fine. And so I want to get into a little bit. A huge part of what I want to get into is just Cloudcroft, because I kind of just got here a couple hours ago, and we went out and had some pizza at, what's the name of the brewery? Is it just Cloudcroft Brewery?
Cloudcroft Brewing Company.
Yeah, super cool little place here, and I got to meet your family and everything. Yeah. And my mind is still a little blown by this town. Like, all of a sudden, I was in Alamogordo, which is where we're staying at the moment, and I drove 30 minutes straight up the side of a mountain. I mean, I'm not kidding, people. Like, it's double the altitude, isn't it? It's like 4,400 and...
yeah, you're about 4,000 something in Alamo, and then you climb all the way up to 9,000 feet.
9,000 feet, just like that. And I feel it, too. Like, it's the temperature has dropped like 30 degrees.
Yeah,
coming up here.
It's pretty crazy.
Okay, so obviously, just a super cool town. I'm already obsessed. I'm sure we'll talk plenty about it. But what brought you here to Cloudcroft? I mean, is this just like the perfect space for the woodworking game, or is it more about where you like to be?
It kind of was more about where I wanted to be. I slowly moved up this way within a few moves. We've moved a lot in the past few years. Like I told you, we were living in Hobbs, New Mexico, which is the very east side of New Mexico. And then we moved back to Weed, which is about 30 minutes south of here. And I worked at a place over there for 3 years. And then I left that place, and then we moved up here just because it was more of a matter of being able to find a place to rent.
Right.
But also we liked the area. We wanted to be up higher in elevation where it's nice and cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, your front yard, which I've just seen for the first time walking in, because I'm in the Prather family home now, which is lovely. Their front yard, you guys, is a valley covered in snow. It is this picturesque thing I can't even wrap my mind around quite yet.
I wake up and look outside every morning. It's hard to believe that that's my front yard sometimes.
Yeah, that's no joke. I mean, and with the life on the road, one of my favorite things is when we stay somewhere really cool, and obviously I get... my front yard or backyard gets to be like the trails in Tucson, which was a big thing for me. It was just like, there's just mountain trails right behind me, but nothing like this kind of view up on top of a mountain. And if you haven't had a chance to hear of Cloudcroft yet, which I had not up to this point, I'd recommend that you pause the podcast right now and go on, I don't know, Instagram or wherever you want to go. Look up some pictures of this place, because it's just like... Is it kind of a ski town? I mean, it's high enough to be.
As far as our ski season goes up here, it's very short. It's very short compared to like Ruidoso, which is a little bit farther north of us. But this year we've actually had a lot of good snow, and I've seen a lot of people out there on the ski slope. But we're not real huge on skiing here, I wouldn't say. There are tons and tons of trails, so there's lots of biking and hiking and hunting around here. There's not any fishing hardly, because we don't have much water up here, but lots of trails and stuff to check out around here.
Yeah, and it's just got a real small town feel. Just it doesn't seem like a big tourist destination, but man, it could be.
Our summers really are popular.
Yeah,
with tourist season, and like Christmas, a lot of people come up.
Nice. So, all right, I'm harping on Cloudcroft because I'm just so excited, you guys. It's like
No,
It's just a little mountain paradise. I don't-
it's pretty awesome up here.
It's so cool.
It really is paradise.
It's cool to be 30 minutes to the, and then I know I'll be going back home tonight, and I'm just gonna descend for half an hour, just straight down practically, and just be back down at 4,000 feet again, and just hanging out at normal temperatures, and no snow on the ground. But what we're really here to talk about is the woodworking, because that's how I found you, was through Little Water Woodworking, and I thought your work was pretty incredible, and I was kind of curious about how you'd started. And the forewarning on this episode, I guess, is that we just went out and had some food and some beers together. So it's actually the first episode I've done with 2 beers in me. So like, well, hopefully my performance is still okay. I'm not stumbling over my words at all. But so we've done some of this. So you'll have to reiterate for the fans here.
Yeah, we tried to hold back a little bit.
We did. It was no good.
The good stuff at the brewery, but
so how did this start? First of all, why don't we take it way back? When did you get into woodworking?
So way back
as a kid.
As a kid, so I was raised on a ranch, and when you're out on a ranch, there's not a whole lot to do other than working, but you learn how to be handy with your hands and fix like everything. And so I've always been good at building and fixing and stuff like that. And I have my parents have old like stuff I whittled as a kid, so that's kind of cool that they still have a bunch of that stuff. But I did a lot more metal work really when I was a teenager, more a lot of welding and stuff like that. So I didn't do just a ton of woodworking. I didn't really grow up with that. My dad is an awesome metal worker and welder, and I mean he makes so many awesome jigs and just all sorts of inventions and stuff that he needs to patent. And but so when I guess I was about 16, 17, starting to think about college and stuff. There was a surveyor up here, a land surveyor that we were friends with. And so I started working with him because I thought that was kind of interesting. I enjoyed I've always been kind of more nerdy and math oriented. And so there's a lot of that in surveying. And so I worked with him and enjoyed it. And so came time to start thinking about college. I went ahead and went to Las Cruces at NMSU over there because they're one of the few colleges actually that still offered a survey engineering degree, which I'm not even sure if they do anymore. I think that program shut down over there, which is kind of sad. But
what's the reason for that? Because I don't know much about survey engineering.
There's not very many people into it anymore.
Has the industry gotten smaller as like different energy sources, or?
Well, I think that GPS technology has really cut back on the amount of people that you need for surveying.
Gotcha.
So I don't know, that it's really died off quite a bit, which is kind of sad. And anyways, but I got my degree over there, and so I started surveying, and I went to Hobbs and was surveying for a company over there. And I did that for 3 years over there. But I was really missing working with my hands. I did lots of really cool work, and I got to play with a lot of really neat technology and equipment, using a lot of GPS equipment. But I got tired of telling people where to build things versus me getting to build them. And this is also just way too much driving around for me.
Yeah.
Like 50% of the job was driving from site to site, and I really got tired of that. So we moved from Hobbs back to Pinon, or in between Pinon and Weed, which is about 30 minutes south of here. And I worked on my mom and stepdad's ranch for a year. And then there was a position at a church camp that opened up for a maintenance person. And so I went over there, and they loved me, of course. I was telling you, it's a small town around
Yeah.
here. You know everybody, and so
Right.
I knew the people that worked there, and so I got a job there, and I got to do a lot of maintenance and a lot of building and a lot more plumbing than I ever wanted to know. But I got to do electrical and plumbing and carpentry and a lot of cool stuff. And so they actually had some table saws and some other woodworking equipment there. And so I started playing around with just building some stuff there. I'm trying to remember like what one of my first bigger projects was there. I think so. My son, he was about 2 years old, and we were having our daughter, and I decided, well, I wanted to make him a bunk bed, and so I built him a bunk bed, and it was pretty basic. It was like kind of just a bunch of 2x6 and just screw together, but I really enjoyed it, and it turned out good. I thought it was pretty awesome, and so I decided, well, I'm pretty good at this. I should try to get into it more. And of course, YouTube is such a resource
Right.
of being able to learn stuff. So just like watch everything on there, the Wood Whisperer and Jimmy DiResta, and there's so many awesome guys on YouTube to be able to learn stuff from. So I just watched a ton of videos, and so when I was at that church camp is when I started learning a lot more and playing with some more stuff. And so I bought a small table saw and a few other tools. Accidentally found on Craigslist, I guess it was Craigslist, a guy in Alamo. It was this older man, and he was losing his sight. And so he couldn't woodwork anymore. And so he was selling a bunch of tools, and went down there and visited with him and like bought a pickup load of tools.
Yeah.
And he started saying, here, take it all. I like it. Started just throwing everything into the pickup. It's like, heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to take a couple pictures of the shop too, so people can see kind of what you have going on and what the setup is.
Well, I'm glad I cleaned it.
Yeah.
It was a total disaster.
I think it looks good. Because I know you just finished up a big project, which is why we were able to get this together.
Yeah.
So you've been full-time then with Little Water for how long now?
Officially as a business, we've been, this March will be 2 years.
Okay.
When we actually filed our business as a LLC. And so, but I've been doing that a little bit. I guess it was probably a little bit longer than that, but officially almost 2 years.
Gotcha. So what is the bulk of most of the projects that you end up doing? Because I've seen some things on Instagram. I've seen some cabinets and also some tabletops and a few other different things. Right. Or countertops, I guess, is kind of
yeah. We've done. We really do all sorts of stuff, and we're really trying to niche down more in our business. We're really in the beginning stages of our business and just trying to figure out, okay, what can we make money at, and what can we do things efficiently to actually make money that we're not wasting time. So that's where we're kind of at in our business. It seems that kitchen cabinets, it seems that people are willing to pay for kitchen cabinets. I have got to build a couple of tables and some really neat small pieces of furniture, but some of those, they take so much time that it's harder to make money on those. But right. Cabinets, you can kind of make them a little bit quicker. There's not just a ton to them, but I still try to make a quality product that people are willing to invest into their homes. And so it seems that our business is kind of leaning more towards being a cabinet maker right now, but I definitely do enjoy when somebody wants a table or something like that.
Right. So I'm trying to picture your day here because I'm in your house, so now I get to get a better picture. I don't get to go to everybody's house. So you've got the shop right there, ready to go. Are you the type of guy that just my theory was that you're the type of person that just can't sit still? Because I feel like there's something about woodworking where it's just an endless process of just like continuing to improve and perfect and all these different things. So do you find yourself to be that kind of person, or am I dead wrong on that?
It depends on the day sometimes.
Yeah.
No, I really like keeping busy on it. Like I said, there are some days where, because the shop is right there, it's harder to get yourself to get out and go. And being self-employed, you have to prod yourself and say, let's go, let's do this sometimes. And
it takes some discipline for sure. I mean, I can attest to that too, because my commute is really to my table or my couch, wherever I'm going to pull the laptop up and get going. It's not easy to just wake up and get to it.
It varies from day to day. Sometimes I'm in the stages of planning. So I have a program that I draw up my kitchen cabinets on, or if I'm having to totally design a piece from scratch and I'm like really having to draw everything up from scratch and get dimensions right. And then there are some days where I'm having to go get material, and most of the time when I'm getting material, I'm going all the way to El Paso. So that is 2 hours south of here. And so that turns into an all-day thing just to get material. There's really not any suppliers close to us that have the like quality hardwoods and quality plywood and stuff. There is, your big box stores, but you're paying a lot more for just plain like poplar. Like today I was at the store. I need a couple of small pieces, and I looked, and like one board was $30. I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
When I go to El Paso, that's a $8 board.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So most of the time, if I'm getting supplies, I'm going all the way to El Paso to do it. It's definitely worth it when I have to build a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some trade-off too, I guess, from being here, because obviously it's a place you really like living, but you don't have access to all the things you'd like to have access to.
Yeah. You definitely have to plan it a lot more. It's not just a 10-minute drive down to the store. It turns into a whole day. So when I if I have projects going on, I try to get materials for a couple of projects at a time.
Right. And now I got to meet your lovely wife and your 2 kids. And I'm so bad at guessing the ages of kids. Honestly, it's like, that's got to be a skill. Because I think some people can look at a kid and be like, all right, you're 2. But I have no frame of reference for that because I don't have kids. So how old are your kids, first off?
So Ranger is 7 and Shelby is almost 5. She'll be 5 here in a couple weeks.
Okay, so Ranger must be in school then.
Yes.
But
he is first grade and Shelby is preschool age, but kind of another big part of our story is that we're homeschooling.
Okay.
So that's another big advantage of us being self-employed.
Right.
Is that, if the kids need me to help them do something, I'm here. And so that's really important to Ashley and I doing that.
Do the kids have an interest in the woodworking? Are they excited when they get to? Oh yeah. When they get to help out and.
Well, Ranger does so far. He I'll have to show you. He has a scroll saw out there, so he likes to cut out stuff and and he'll sit there. He'll be totally engrossed in it just for hours, just cutting little pieces.
Well, there's something as a kid, and I mean, I always harp on this idea that somehow I was part of like the last generation of kids that like had experiences playing outside and working with our hands on the most part. But I think for me that was true, and like as a kid I was always building something. If there was like some scrap wood and some nails, cool, like we'd make a giant crossbow or something. Like it was just what we did.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking that must be exciting.
My parents had to tell me stop building forts.
Yeah.
In every tree around the house.
Yeah.
Find you one tree and make you a good fort. You have boards in every tree out here.
You just had like 10 treehouse projects.
Yeah.
So this is something that runs deep with you from childhood. You were messing around, you were building stuff. You have an interest in this. But I feel like I feel like in particular woodworking. And so my background in this is that I went to college for a theater degree that I don't use, but it was fun because I got to help out in our various shops and building sets at different times and things like that, learn some things. And so like I gained some carpentry skills and things like that. But woodworking is such a test of patience, and it's such a challenge. And I feel like your material is alive working with you, and you need to know how to control that.
Yeah.
So
it wants to move, and
it does.
You have to work with it, and you have to, if you're working with solid wood, you have to plan your joinery around that, and that you have to say, okay, if this thing moves, I got to make sure that this door isn't gonna totally split in half.
Right.
Know? So it's definitely a living material. And like I was telling you about wood versus metalworking, and I know there's different things. There's like metal machining where it's like you're working in thousandths of an inch, and then there's like welding where you can put something together and you can weld a quarter-inch gap if needed. But like with woodworking, everything has to be like tight.
Right. And you said you were a kind of a math nerd. So does that appeal to that side of you? Like measure twice, cut once, and you're always on target there?
I guarantee I cut a lot more than once.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine, but like it's so tough because then your material is like, well, that's the wrong size.
Yeah, you can't. It's a lot harder to add material back to wood than it is with like metal. You can, if you need to, you just weld more on there. But yeah, I mean, the math part of it, I do enjoy that, and like I was talking about designing things and like working with dimensions, and you really have to kind of look at the whole piece and how it's going to work with each other. And I guess one thing I really like about woodworking, it's quite a technical skill, but there's a lot of art to it also, and there's also a lot of artist blood in me too. So both of my grandmothers painted a lot, and my aunts and uncles, and just there's a lot of artists in both sides of my family. So that runs in me.
Yeah, you've got a history of a lineage of craftsmanship.
Yeah,
that flows through your veins.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
I have an uncle, a great uncle, and he builds violins and stuff like that. So that's
Next
one
level.
thing. That's one thing I need to make the time to get him to help me build one. That's one thing I've really wanted to learn. And what's awesome about woodworking, I mean, there's just so many genres of it. I mean, there's cabinetry, and then there's luthiers who make instruments, and there's, I mean, just everything in between. There's so many different things that you can do with it.
I would say right now woodworking's having a moment. It's becoming quite popular.
I think there's quite a revival in the crafts, woodworking and things like that. If you look at just on YouTube, I mean, all of the woodworking channels that have popped up, I mean, it's crazy. Everybody who does woodworking, they make a YouTube channel.
Right. And of course, the famous example would be Nick Offerman, who is a fellow Illinois boy and has made quite a lot of stink about his woodworking and become quite popular for that. I feel like for me, that was just personally like my introduction to the fact that, there's someone out there who's like being a craftsman making different wood pieces.
Cool.
Yeah, right. It is. It's popular. It's something for the hipsters that everybody's getting into to be able to create whatever things. But it goes a bit deeper when you say, okay, this is my day job now. This is something I'm committing to, not just for friends and neighbors or to seem impressive. This is going to be the bread and butter.
Yeah.
So I wondered, I feel like the key thing in that, and also basically the key thing in woodworking for me, it's got to be patience. Like the idea that you start this project and you have to design it right, and think about using all the right materials, and then gathering those materials, and then making sure your cuts are all spot on and everything. There's so much level of perfection that it's just straight up patience. But you strike me, having known you for 2 so hours now, as a really kind of patient, kind of low key guy. Have you always felt yourself to be kind of like?
It's kind of hard to get me moving fast and
you're kind of a Zen dude. That's what I think so far. That's always been you?
Yeah, my mom tells funny stories about me when we'd be getting ready for school. I'd be tying my shoes and just taking my time, and she'd be yelling at me, "Hurry up, let's get out the door." just wait, I gotta tie this just right.
Right.
I'm pretty low key. And
is that something that you've worked to cultivate with yourself too? Because I guess the thing is interesting is that on this podcast I've met both types of people who just seem to have this internal zen, and I'm always like, how did you get there? Because I'm always worried about everything, but I feel like anybody who could take on a woodworking project must have something that I don't have in terms of patience. So do you work for that? Is that's just you?
I guess it's just me. I don't.
Yeah.
I've just always been kind of take it easy, and like with the woodworking, it just takes as long as it takes. And there are definitely moments when you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just go faster with it. And you get in the process, you get more efficient with what you're doing, and it makes it not drag on as much. But there are times, woodworking is inherently dangerous too. So you kind of need to be a slow, and you need to be present and really pay attention. It's not a thing in which you can zone out you shouldn't be zoning out while you're running saws and stuff.
Right.
About the only time I zone out is when I'm sanding for hours and hours.
Right.
And you saw I have my TV there in the shop, and I can watch a movie while I'm sanding.
Right. But I feel like that's a really classic, it's almost a classic Zen concept, because it's like Zen in the Art of Archery, where it's all about like just focus on the actual task and just be super present there. And especially a task like you say that's dangerous. It's like, okay, I actually have to be focused on this task. So that's gonna cultivate that mindset to an extent. I'm harping on this just because it's a personal fascination.
Yeah.
Believe me, this is just me. But okay, so Little Water. Tell me about what is Little Water, because there must be some sort of meaning there.
Little Water. So, when I was working at the Sacramento Methodist Assembly, that church camp, we lived on Agua Chiquita Canyon, and so that translates to Little Water. So there you go.
You spent some time there. That's a fond memory of yours.
Yeah. And it's you think like it's beautiful here. It's really beautiful there too. And I don't know. I just thought it was a cool name too, and I didn't want it to just be Prather Woodworking, because most people pronounce Prather.
I got it wrong. Luckily, I asked you before we started, so I could nail it for this. But what was cool is driving out here, I was following Ford in his Ford, and I have to assume you can't buy any other truck.
No.
Well,
I mean, I have that Toyota car, so
yeah, but it's got to say FRD on the back.
As far as a truck, yeah.
Your right taillight's out, by the way.
I know.
I'm gonna tell you.
And a cool story about that truck.
Yeah.
So that's a 86, and I'm a 87. So my dad bought that truck his senior year of high school, and so I grew up with that truck and learned to drive in it. And I was brought home from the hospital when I was newborn in that, and so I've grown up with it, and it's part of me.
Nice.
Kind of part of, I don't know, just part of who I am. And I enjoy keeping that truck going, and it's been good to me.
Yeah. I feel like I get that sense with you, that there's a care for what is around you to maintain things and keep them in good shape. And that's what it's about, making things last. And I happen to know there's got to be a part of that is Dave Ramsey. Because you mentioned that you're a Dave Ramsey guy. So what's his deal? Because for those of you who don't know, Dave Ramsey, I think he was most famous as a radio host, right? I mean, that was where, or was the book kind of more famous?
I think Hand in Hand, really.
Was that the book?
I think maybe the book
one
first, but financial freedom.
Yeah, financial freedom and total money makeover on all that
Yeah,
stuff.
total money makeover.
Right. And so that's a thing for you guys. That's something again.
So when we were living in Hobbs, we were invited to go to a Dave Ramsey class, and so we started our debt-free journey way back then, which was, golly, that was almost like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So we've been working on becoming debt-free since then. When the only thing that we have as far as debt is Ashley's student loan. I was very fortunate when I graduated that I didn't have to take any student loans, but Ashley did. And so, but when we got married, I mean, that was part of it. It's like, this is both of ours now.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that together for the past few years. And the main thing is just not digging that debt hole deeper.
Right.
And so we've been working on that for the past few years. And when we first got married, we were making really good money, and we were over in, the oil patch and making good money out there. But the money wasn't worth it for our happiness. We were both miserable there, and we wanted to move up here where it was slower and just take it easy. Unfortunately, that means you're not going to make as much money up here. But like I said, you just can't you can't dig your debt hole any deeper.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that for the past few years. I mean, we've had 2 kids, and having kids is expensive, but we were able to cash roll that. And an important part of our business is also trying our best not to go into debt, building our business. The tools that I've bought, almost all of them are used. The newest thing in there you saw was like the bandsaw, and that's like one of the few new tools I've bought. But I really try, as far as like big tools, I try to find use as much as I can.
Right.
And I see on like YouTube and Instagram and stuff, you'll see these guys that are just getting into it, and all of a sudden they're like buying, $10,000 worth of new tools. It's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But I mean, to each their own. They might have a really good day job and that's their hobby, but this is my day job, and I'm trying to just grow slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of almost the same sort of with us, where Andrew and I really and part of the move on the road and everything was about like trying to retire early. Essentially, not that we've stopped working, but that we have a lot more free time for like actually being able to live. Because there have been times where we were, when we were in Denver, even before that, where it was like, man, we're really kind of working super hard just to make our ends meet here.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of time to ourselves or anything like that. And so, but I think that that's part of the entrepreneur journey too. And there's almost like 2 ways you can go with it. And there are those people who are going to just crank out hours and hours and hours and make absolutely as much as they can. But then the lifestyle is so much spending because they have to have the newest watch and car and everything to show off what they've done. Or you can find yourself sort of on the other end, which is just like, let's just not go into debt and let's pay the bills and get this thing rolling. So I totally get what you mean.
Yeah. And like you're saying, like working yourself to death and not having any time. The homeschooling is important to us, and just, I'm so blessed that I get to be here with my kids whenever they need it. Ashley does like all the schooling, and I'm so thankful that she does that. But every once in a while, I get to walk in here and be like, what's going on? And get to participate in that.
Right. Well, and there's something that's cool and kind of old school about that too, which is just like, kids are going to learn from what you're doing. I mean, I think about the years I spent in public education, and which was actually I'm lucky to say one less than most people, but it was still like a huge, to me, like waste of my time. Like, whoa, that was my childhood. I was just like, just at school, just learning about things that I don't think about or use in any sort of practical way anymore, especially because of how outdated, most education is. And now I'm harping on just public education.
I was homeschooled from seventh grade up.
Yeah.
Through high school. So, I guess that was important, or it influenced my decision to homeschool my kids, because I saw what I did, and I was able to be done with school by noon, and then the rest of the day I got to do stuff. Or when I got into high school, I would only have to do about 2 or 3 days worth of school, and then I would go work. I was doing that surveying.
Yeah. So you had an even earlier start than of being able to get your hands on some work and learn about it, which has got to be why you've been able to start this thing and build it yourself, because you're familiar with that challenge.
Yeah. Well, and like that, the entrepreneurial bug, like it was always kind of in me. Like when I was in Hobbs and when I was surveying, like I was always thinking, man, I just want to do something. Like having a job is not me.
Right.
I never felt like it fit me really. And I was just always dreaming like different things. And like I was listening to Dave Ramsey about stuff, and another guy that he's friends with, his name is Dan Miller, and he wrote a book. It's 48 Days to the Work You Love, I believe.
Okay.
So that was a really awesome book, and it kind of got me going on like, well, it really got my mind working on, well, there's easy ways to make money on your own. I mean, you just have to have that drive and discipline to do it, which I've always kind of been a little bit more self-motivated than others.
Yeah. What are your favorite and least favorite parts then of owning your own business? Because now you're 2 years in, and I've only got about a year or two on you.
Yeah.
In this racket, in this game of business ownership. What do you like? What do you hate?
What do I love? I mean, you love
the work.
I love the work.
Right.
Really. That's the best part. I get to go out and make stuff. I mean, I guess really the most awesome part is when I bring a finished piece to a customer or install their cabinets, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so awesome!" And
right.
So
But along with that comes the absolute flip, which is when you can bring something to a client. Maybe you haven't had this because it's different in your world, but I've had this in the world of marketing where they're like, "That's not what I wanted."
Yeah.
Even if it's exactly what we said we were going to do.
Right. Yeah, I've had that. Not too bad, but it's like when you get someone start nitpicking. Well,
Yeah.
what about this? What about
And it's often about their own projection of something.
Yeah,
they would have a problem even if you had brought them exactly what they were picturing, probably.
Yeah,
because they're remodeling, they're building, there's something, there's some other stress there.
And there's definitely been the things where they're like, "What about that?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's that big nick or scratch on something." It's like I'll fix it. And so, and I take pride in being able to do that. But I mean, sometimes you're not going to make everybody happy, but I've been very fortunate, and I've worked for some really awesome people, and they just go crazy over stuff I build. And there's a lady up here in Cloudcroft. She said, "Just build it how you think, design it how you think." And I draw up something and like this. Yeah, that's awesome. Build it. And I like give her the invoice, and she said, "Okay, yeah, that's great." I'm like, "Dang it, you said yes way too quick to that."
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting. So your projects then have been some in Cloudcroft and some in Alamogordo, all over New Mexico, or where can people find your stuff?
Like mostly up here in Cloudcroft.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it's been up here. I have a little bit of stuff that I've built for a lady up in Ruidoso that I'm friends with. Or not Ruidoso, but more east of there. I've built quite a few things for her. She's great and has given me lots of work, and she's kind of one of those people that's always like, just build it however you think. And I build it, and she's blown away by it.
So
I've built. I'm trying to think. I guess I have. Well, it was a cutting board. It's in California, so that's kind of cool.
oh, nice, yeah,
But most of it's more local around here, and it's as far as big things, it's
Yeah.
harder to ship.
Right.
It gets really expensive
Yeah.
really quick to ship anything big. So most of my big stuff has been here, or people have come picked it up.
I feel like, especially when it comes to something like woodworking, you really need to make sure you're going to someone who's an artisan and dedicated to the work. And so it's like a real word of mouth game, making sure that someone is finding your pieces to be, worth their time, and then they pass that on to someone else who needs something. Because we all want to know that we can trust sort of the work that's coming in.
Right.
One of my favorite people in the world, and they don't even know me at all, is the dude. There's a dude in San Francisco who makes rings, and he makes them out of wood. Like, it's different like pieces of wood that he'll make into the rings. And so this is my wedding ring here,
Well, that's cool.
which is made out of it's actually made out of a Jack Daniel's barrel, and Andrea's engagement ring and wedding ring are the same thing. But it's like, it was so crucial for that thing, especially like an engagement ring. Like, what a personal thing that was, to be able to be like, oh, this didn't come from K Jewelers. Like, here you go, someone made this
It's a one
for
of a
you.
kind.
Right, exactly. But I feel like that is something that's really challenging about woodworking. But weirdly, I see the parallel in my work in marketing, because we can be boutique and we can be something that is unique and gets passed around in certain niche industries, and people are looking for that. It kind of works that way. It's almost an advantage in that way.
Yeah. And one advantage I have being up here is, like, I'm one of the few people that are actually like doing this type of work. There are a couple other cabinet builders up here. There's an older gentleman that he's visited with me a bunch and helped me on learning some things, but he's like, I'm done. I'm retired. He's like 70 something, and
Right.
and he's retiring. So there's kind of that big gap. Like you were talking about, there's not very many people that are, or not very many kids that are even doing wood shop anymore. So it's getting far and few between. Everybody's wanting to be a graphic artist, or it's all like turned to computer work.
Right, exactly. And there is something about building stuff with your hands that you don't get from those other methods of creating something.
It's definitely a different kind of satisfaction when you can physically put your hands on something that I made, like those. I mean,
He's showing me some awesome wood coasters that he just picked up.
and like that serving tray, and kind of disappointed. I really don't have much stuff in my home. It's kind of like the what's the saying? The cobbler's kids have no shoes. Yeah, there's very little of my own stuff in my house, unfortunately.
Right.
But well, I'll get my own someday.
Yeah, and one day when you guys build a house, and you'll build it all yourself, probably.
Yeah, hope to get to build most of the furniture in there.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be something that you'd be up for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like I've started to put together this image to kind of round you out for people, because I think it's fascinating. I definitely have taken you to be one of those people that, I mean, it's the same concept with the truck, or buying a used saw, or using high quality wood to make a project. It's all like recognizing something that is inherently good about something, and then putting in the time to make it something that is great, and then that is representative of the work. Would you say I've summed up that process pretty well?
That's more eloquent than I could put.
Is
it.
that you?
Yeah.
We just wrote the bio.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's one thing that's really important to me when we're building things, is using quality materials and hardware and stuff. And I don't care if it costs more. Either you want to use it and pay for it, or I'm not going to build it.
Right.
I mean, I'd rather have something of mine last, 100 years than 10 years.
Right. Last at least as long as that Ford you're driving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I was trying to think of the cheeky Ford acronyms. Isn't one like found on the road dead or
First
something?
on race day.
First on race day. See, that's the good one. I tease. I really don't have any dog in the truck
I've had my name made fun of all my life, and I'm like, okay, tell me
Well,
original
I was trying to
joke. I
think
might
of.
laugh.
I mean, it made me think of like Hitchhiker's Galaxy, because isn't there a character?
Arthur Ford.
Yeah, right. But where did it come from? Were you named after the truck? I mean,
Probably.
yeah. Possibly. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah.
And were
A
they
younger brother. His name is Given.
Chevy
No.
Chase. No.
His name's Given.
Given, like Given.
In.
Givin.
Yeah. I believe it was an old family name.
Okay. I was trying to think of the context. I didn't have anything to offer.
As far as I know, I think it's just old family names.
Right.
So, yeah. Our family is all a bunch of odd names. So,
Yeah.
And like Ranger, of course, I got my Ford Ranger.
Okay.
And
there you
then
go.
I got my Shelby Mustang.
Okay.
There you go.
So you have taken it and run with the ball on that
Yep.
one. You're
Yeah.
like, all right, that's what it is.
Yeah. Ashley wouldn't let me name Shelby Edsel, though.
What is Edsel?
A car. A
Oh,
Ford
yeah.
Ford Edsel.
It
It was a really ugly car.
I don't know that much about cars, I'll admit. I know a good amount about motorcycles, which this is good because everybody should know this. I should be flat honest about this. That every podcast so far, I've been able to ride my motorcycle to the podcast, and that's been like a good. I don't really know where that started, but it's in the artwork, and it was just sort of part of it. Like, oh, it's like romantic that you ride your motorcycle and like meet people. That's like a cool imagery. But
Yeah, and as soon as I saw that, it's like, oh, this guy's got freezes.
you asked me, yeah, because I mean, it was 20 maybe here today.
Yeah, the past few days, it's like it hadn't been above freezing.
Right. So I was gonna freeze and I was gonna fall down.
Yeah.
And get covered in salt from the roads.
Yeah.
So I had to take the truck. I'm very sorry to the fans. I do what I can. But it is what it is. The motorcycle's covered in a layer of snow in Alamogordo at the moment. I just posted about it yesterday. It made me sad. But, okay, so the woodworking, I feel like I see that. How else can we round you out as a person? What are the other interests? What takes you beyond just the woodworking? I mean, you're obviously a dedicated father and teacher sometimes.
Yeah.
And you live in Cloudcroft, so you must have some love of nature and connection with that. What else do you find yourself spending time on?
Music. I played several instruments, so spend some time with that. Ranger is also learning how to play the violin right now, so I've had to pick up mine again and try to
The custom family-made violins?
I wish.
Oh, no? Not originals?
No, I need to get one from my uncle or get him to help me make one.
Right.
But no, they're just they were bought ones, but I need to get a custom one from him. And I know he has probably a few laying around, but we play music. That's another thing that's in our family. There's a lot of music running in through my veins on both sides of the family.
Violin's a tough one.
Yeah.
So you play violin. What else do you play?
Bass and guitar, and I mess around with the ukulele a little bit.
Okay. See, I feel like the transition between ukulele, guitar, and bass, they're all pretty similar. And they all have the same strings, right? Well, actually, ukulele doesn't.
Ukulele's weird because it has there's that high string on the upper side of the.
That's like a banjo, right? It's
it has that high string, so it's a little weird to play. It's harder to play. It doesn't translate as well with other instruments, but I play the bass at our church for our worship music, so that's fun.
Yeah,
I enjoy getting to do that. And Ashley sings
electric bass or stand-up bass.
Electric. I want to stand up.
Yeah, but they're like the violin because they've got no frets. They're a little tough to play.
Yep.
Got to play one once. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, I played bass too.
Cool.
But not very well. Just like for high school. It was
cool. Let's see. We do that.
Yeah. But you don't have a bluegrass band that you jam out with. But you could.
I need to.
Yeah.
I need to.
Because that would be, you got all the bases covered for bluegrass.
Yeah.
I could bring my guitar up and we could jam.
Awesome.
Play some
Well, I got a couple.
don't know anything. Yeah.
I got 2 or 3 over there.
It's been years.
Yeah.
It hasn't been years. I play more than I admit, but yeah. Okay. So we got music. So
music.
There goes the arts.
Another
again.
part of the music is we collect some vinyl, and so the kids love it.
Yeah.
Ranger loves C.W. McCall. He's a old country artist from like the 70s and 80s. He plays like the trucker songs and stuff.
Nice.
Ranger just loves that. But yeah, that's a fun thing we get to share with the kids, is just that love of music.
Yeah. So I feel like what's really cool is the image we've actually drawn of Ford here is really like a dude in the mountains working on wood and playing folk music or maybe worship music or whatever. It's really like a classic image. Like it's a very, you've got a style. Do you have like, was there like a role model that got you here? Because there must be like a an actor or someone who's like, this is the lifestyle, or you watched something as a kid. It was like, that's it. I gotta live on top of a mountain and do those things.
It's just kind of been me my whole life.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know.
It's part of the family too.
Yeah, I'm just some hillbilly from up here. I enjoy the simpler things, and I don't know. I guess I've gotten a lot of joy from my woodworking, and I guess that filters into a lot of the rest of my life. Just kind of more humble things, but quality things over the quantity, I guess.
Yeah. If anybody's hearing the tapping and wondering, there's a beautiful basset hound here named Jolene, who's visiting me now.
Click, click.
It's quite sweet. And only has one ear.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. She had a little accident years ago. She got ran over on the road, and so, but
oh my gosh.
she lost the ear from it, and that was it.
I guess that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
We thought we were gonna lose her on that. She from the accident, she was paralyzed for a few days. Her rear legs weren't working or anything.
Man.
And the vet did an awesome job. They pumped her full of a lot of steroids, and she regained her rear filling in her rear legs.
Wow.
So she's a good dog.
It was such a basset hound thing too, because any other dog you walk in the house and they run up to you and start barking and going crazy.
She's just like,
she like was waking up from her nap. She was just like, "Hey, what's up?" Now she thinks I might feed her though, or something.
of course.
Okay, we've gotten so far afield here. So the thing I always try to get to before the end of an episode for sure is kind of, I want like the pitch on Cloudcroft, and maybe you can help me give kind of the pitch on Alamogordo too, because I tried hard to get a podcast guest in Alamogordo. I'm still working on it. Might be able to come up with one, but obviously Cloudcroft is just the town next door, and obviously has some really cool things going on here. So tell me kind of what are your favorite parts about this place, and why here for you?
I think one thing I like so much about Cloudcroft is it's not super touristy as far as like mountain towns go. It's different than Ruidoso, which is about 45 minutes north of here. It's a much smaller town, much smaller feel. As you saw, I said hi to half the town in the brewery, and it's a much smaller town, and just a lot easier going. I mean, we don't have a lot of stuff to do around here. It's more about the nature and just taking it easy up here.
Yeah, I always have some photos to go along with the podcast, but this time what I wish I had was like dash cam footage from my truck that I could show driving up here, because I was just driving through New Mexico. I was going up a hill, sure, but then all of a sudden I'm driving through like an actual cloud, would be a good way to describe Cloudcroft, of course. And all of the trees, all the pine trees just turned white.
Yeah.
And I was just
frozen.
Just completely frozen.
Winter wonderland.
It was absolutely wild. Yeah. That's the thing I wish I could show people, so they'll have to go look for themselves and kind of discover this place.
Yeah, it's definitely quite beautiful up here this time of year.
Yeah.
And any time of year, really. I mean, when it's not snowy, I mean, it can get just really, really green up here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And obviously your front door view is pretty awesome with just all the big valley right there and elk walking by and all that stuff. That's great. Okay, so how can people find you? Because hopefully people listen to this and are like, I need custom woodwork here in New Mexico.
You can, on my Instagram, you can find me at Little Water Woodworks, and I have a website at www.littlewaterwoodworks.com.
Perfect. So go find him, and I'm gonna take a photo of us here and probably some photos in the shop and stuff. So if you want some visual on this, I wish I had some photos of Cloudcroft. Maybe It's possible I'll come back up here with Andrea like before I publish the episode.
Yeah,
be
you
able
need to bring her up here.
Snap a few. Yeah, she really wants to come. She's excited about it.
Bring her up. Check out that sunset.
Seriously. Yeah, it's no joke up here.
One of the most amazing, beautiful sunsets in New Mexico when you're looking out over the white sands and you're looking through the trees here, and then you're looking all the way out onto the Oregon mountains. I mean, you're just seeing so many different landscapes all in one view. It's pretty awesome. Yeah,
so come to Cloudcroft and see it for yourself. And while you're here, get your custom woodworks from Little Water Woodworks. Follow me if you want to see some of the photos. As always, it's at T Hickson Life, and I'll snap some pics before I go. And Ford, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been excellent. It's been good meeting you.
I enjoyed it.
And everybody stay tuned, because I'm seeing what I can dig up for the rest of New Mexico. I don't know where we're heading next, but I know that hopefully I'll be able to get y'all an episode from Alamogordo too, so you can check out some of that stuff too. And because obviously there's white sands and doing all that stuff too. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next episode.